This video is sponsored by CryptoCompare. CryptoCompare.com.
The actions of Bernie Sanders supporters in the last few days quite literally represent the real, genuine face of fascism. Many seem to be surprised a bit by this, but they shouldn't be, since these supporters act in perfect accordance with the ideology transmitted by their idol, who is, as I said last year when he was polling in single digits, a dangerous Bolshevik. Let's explore. Hello everyone and welcome to the Freedom Alternative. Alright, by now I expect most of you have already heard the news, so I won't be reading any articles, just a short rundown so we can get to the analysis. Essentially, the Georg Soros founded the US far left has reverted to what totalitarian leftists know best: violence. First, it was in Ohio, where Tommy DiMassimo, Bernie Sanders supporter, Black Lives Matter activist and student at the Wright University in Dayton, Ohio, has climbed the stage trying to physically harm the Republican frontrunner, the real estate billionaire Donald Trump. Thankfully, the Secret Service intervened in time and the communist thug was then swiftly rushed to the county jail. Some hours later, the far-left super PAC in Chicago showed once again that the mob rule and the organized crime did not actually die in that city. It just joined the Democrat Party and placed a smiley face on top of their rotten totalitarian dirt. Georg Soros' venture, Black Lives Matter, alongside with various other loose coalitions of communist lowlifes, came together and turned the place where Trump was supposed to hold a rally into utter chaos, triggering a postponement of a rally. Following the postponement announcement, the the Black Lives Matter activists and their friends celebrated the temporary suspension of the First Amendment, and their impromptu leader, Jamal Green, said that, quote, "We wanted to show Trump that this is Chicago, and we run Chicago, and we're not going to take this. We got better organizers here." You can't make this stuff up. Here's some images. Oh, and this is a policeman after meeting the peace-loving Bernie Sanders thugs. More video footage in the low bar. Then, one day later, similar shenanigans were attempted in Kansas City, but there, the police dealt with it better by using pepper spray and actually enforcing the law, much to the desperation of the totalitarian thugs for whom the rule of law is a completely alien concept. By the time I'm done editing this video and upload it, I suspect even more incidents like this will have happened, so this is an ongoing story, in a way, as we approach the March 15 vote when Ohio, Missouri, Illinois, Florida and North Carolina will hold primaries. But that's a topic for another day. What is completely loathsome about all of this is that Hillary Clinton, of all people, is the voice of reason. In light of what I just presented, Hillary Clinton only had this to say, quote, "Violence has no place in our politics. We should use our words and deeds to bring Americans together." End of quote. Now let's compare that to everyone else. Bernie Sanders, quote, "Obviously, while I appreciate that we had supporters at Trump's rally in Chicago, our campaign did not organize the protests." So Bernie Sanders appreciates when the Cheka does his dirty work, but of course wants none of the association and responsibility. Oh, and the media isn't rushing at all to pressure Bernie to distance himself from the very real and proven violent thugs of today. They were all over Trump to make him disavow the KKK 100 times until they dropped it, even though Trump's connection to the KKK in comparison was far flimsier than Bernie's connection to the more active and more 21st century types of violent groups. But perhaps the biggest disappointments came from the GOP. Marco Rubio said in Largo, Florida, quote, "This is what a culture and society looks like when everybody says whatever the heck they want, when everyone just goes around saying, 'I'm just going to speak my mind.' Well, there are other people that are angry too, and if they speak out and say whatever they want, it all breaks down. It's called chaos, it's called anarchy, and that's what we're careening towards." Really, Robert Rubio? Really? See, Gorbachev called. He wants his speech back. Oh, and Kim Jong-un also says hi and would like to transmit a big thumbs up, as he also deeply agrees that it's a bad thing to have a society and culture where everybody can say whatever the heck they want. He would have transmitted that himself, but his Windows 98 computer won't boot up. I'm sure you can understand. Ted Cruz also seems to have forgotten his constitution at home these days, as he was incapable of mentioning the words expected from a professed constitutionalist that he says he is. You know, violation of the First Amendment. Instead, Ted Cruz said, quote, "I think a campaign bears responsibility for creating an environment where the candidates urges supporters to engage in physical violence, to punch people in the face. The predictable consequence of that is that it escalates, and today is unlikely to be the last such instance." So it's Trump's fault that the Bernie campaign created a Cheka type of environment and a culture in which violence to shut down political opponents is perfectly acceptable. What? Mr. Cruz might have lost several voters over this one because, you see, for the most part, his voters were indeed the stubborn folks for whom the immutable principles of the Constitution actually do matter. Way to go, Ted Cruz. I won't even bother to mention what Kasich had to say. It's always been of little importance what Kasich has to say anyway. But what about the so-called conservative press? Again, just like with the candidates, the voice of reason came from where I expected the least. Much to my complete astonishment, the conservatives at the National Review were the ones to get it right. Lowry at the National Review says, quote, "The first thing to say about this is that it is wrong to disrupt and shut down a political rally. Period. Full stop. This was a mob action and it was disgusting. The spectacle tonight will probably only help him. It means that Trump will, if that's possible, get even more media coverage over the weekend, and it will make him a purported martyr to free speech. If it's enough to stoke his turnout even slightly or turn some more voters his way on Tuesday, it potentially could be a decisive event in this race." Now, say what you want about National Review, but with all their openly admitted anti-Trump slant, they know the score. Unlike, let's say, the supposedly hardline conservative punditry aggregate Red State, which did nothing more and nothing less than call up on the far-left bullies to break the law even further and bring guns to Trump rallies. Now, this is really messed up. Something's really wrong when Hillary Clinton is the voice of reason when it comes to shenanigans at a Trump rally. Something's really rotten when the openly anti-Trump National Review is amongst the very two media outlets that get it right. The other outlet being, of course, Breitbart, a platform that is routinely pro-Trump anyway. But other than these two, virtually every other relevant media from both the left and the right got this one really, really wrong. Now, one thing's for sure. The possibility of the police voting for Trump has just increased multiple-fold. Do you think the policemen who had to keep the far-left violence under control will rush to vote for Bernie Sanders or Hillary? I sincerely doubt that. I know I would never vote for the party whose supporters tried to beat me up and who made me question whether I'll get home tonight in one piece or not. So there we go. Now everyone can see what happens when the smiley-faced democratic socialism doesn't win at the ballot box. Because, let's face it, Bernie Sanders already lost, and I know that because my internet is faster and I get the news faster. Socialists don't understand defeat. especially not the hashtag feel the burn flavor of socialists who are part of the everyone gets a trophy generation. But they maintain the good old Bolshevik tradition. Whenever they don't get it their way, violence is imminent. The Democrat media complex and the establishment GOP loved to play the Hitler card throughout these primaries, but while one can argue that the Donald has some characteristics of a dictator, that does not a fascist make. However, sending in the thugs to violently shut down your political opponent's events, that does a totalitarian make. The cathedral media, the contemptible supremacists over the Black Lives Matter, Rubio, Cruz, all of you might have just provided the decisive step towards President Trump. We'll get to know soon, in a bit over 24 hours from now. Congratulations, you fucking morons.